Memo, continuing research, City of Houston, 20th century. Preparing to view video compilation of events prepared during that period by KPRC television, transmitted on VH frequency 2.
January the 20th, 1968. The largest regular season crowd in NCAA history to see a college basketball game. Nearly 53,000 exuberant fans showed up at the Houston Astrodome for the game tabbed as the game of the century. Unbeaten and top-ranked UCLA against number 2 and unbeaten Houston. Now, 14 years later, the Cougars that took part in that game look back with very fond memories.
Well, it's probably one of the greatest college basketball games, I think, in the history of college sports. And for me, it was a highlight of my career because I think that out of all the places I traveled in the world, most of my recognition is still done by that one single game. It affected people more than any single game that I think that I will ever play and ever have played in. It's people can identify with it. They can identify the moment, the time, and the place, whatever they was doing at that time. And it was probably one of the, just highlights of a lot of people's lives, and especially my career, as I said. I think it did more for, especially in the Southwest. I think it did more for college basketball in the Southwest than any single game any year in basketball. I think that game really established the dominance and the power of Southwest basketball. And I think Houston led the way it throughout the nation, saying, hey, we have great basketball down here. We have real fine talent. We have great players. And we proved ourselves that night. And not only to the local fans who knew we was a very good basketball team, but to the nation and to the world.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
America's race to the moon began that hot September day at Rice University. It started in Houston, and when it ended, Houston was the first word uttered from the lunar surface.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Making a touchdown on the surface of the moon was the technical achievement. But what turned out to be most symbolic is the first step on the moon, which was relatively easy to do.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Aldrin's comments were not so profound as he closed the hatch.
Making sure not to lock it on my way out.
When you heard the cheering of the people in the viewing room behind me, and I got literally a chill, and that was the first time that I realized that, my God, we've just landed on the moon.
Dickinson resident Gene Kranz is the legendary flight director who guided Apollo 11 to the moon and back.
We have left the Earth, and we have moved to another planet, and we lived and survived on that planet just for a few days, but we did it.
These rockets are antiques, museum pieces from an era long since gone. But until 30 years ago, they were just a dream in someone's head, models of things to come.
In the year 2000, if everything goes as planned, a time capsule will be dug up in Houston. Inside will be the predictions of over 20,000 students on what they think life will be like about that time in Houston and the United States. Today, that time capsule was buried. Inside were the predictions. It's all the idea of the Allstate Insurance Company marking the opening of their new building on Bel Air Boulevard. And here are some of the predictions from these students on what they think life will be like in the year 2000. Students who now range in age from 13 to 16. They believe that Houston will have a population of 4.5 million. Freeways will be passé because everybody will have a flying saucer and they'll be visiting other planets with those flying saucers. Schools and study will be a thing of the past because brainwaves will answer everything. Robot maids will take care of the housekeeping, and the Boston robots will win the World Series. The twist will still endure as the favorite dance, but it will share the spotlight with something called the Hully Gully and the Majestic. There will still be a 5-day work week, but you'll only have to work 2 hours a day. There's a wide range of ideas on salaries. One girl thinks she'll be making about $1.50 a year as a stenographer. A boy feels he'll be very disappointed if he's not making at least $500,000 a year as an attorney. But if one prediction is to be believed, things won't change much around the White House because the president will be Caroline Kennedy. Lee Tucker, Channel 2 News, reporting.
We built a special truck for the instant news camera, and it's ready to go anywhere, anytime. The VIG-2 instant news camera is an Ikegami HL33. Other major stations around the country are also using the Ikegami. Electronically, it's similar to the cameras used in television studios, but it's even smaller and lighter than that CP16 film camera we looked at earlier. There's also a backpack containing the battery for the camera and more of the electronics. It's a color camera, but it actually contains 3 pickup tubes, one for red, one for blue, and one for green. The 3 colors are mixed electronically to make the color picture you see on your television set. The camera has a zoom lens and a shoulder brace, so it can be carried like a film camera. The camera and backpack are connected by a cable. Another cable carries the picture back to the truck. The equipment in the truck feeds into a microwave system. That's the hardware that makes instant news possible. There's a transmitting antenna carried on the roof of the truck that can be set up quickly. It transmits to a receiving antenna on a downtown building or to a receiver on a tower at the station. With the microwave, a story can be handled several ways. It can be put on the air live as it's happening. The story can be videotaped on a small machine in the truck and then sent back later by microwave. Or a videotape cassette can be carried back to the station by a messenger, as we do with news film. But when it gets back to the station, it's ready for editing because it does not have to be processed.
The grand jury is expected to finish hearing witnesses today and possibly begin handing down indictments Friday. Cal Thomas, Big 2 News, on the scene at the Federal Court Building.
Decisions, decisions. With so many different brands and products and packages and prices and places to buy, it's not always easy to make the right choice and get the best value for your money. That's why smart shoppers shop around in the Chronicle. Every day, the Chronicle brings you more news and more ads than any other newspaper in Texas. No wonder so many more people are sold on the Chronicle. Get the Chronicle and get the jump on tomorrow's values.
Because for the correct time, they call Houston's time service, capital 7171. This service, made possible by local and national advertisers, has been keeping Houston on time for over 15 years. Houston has over 150,000 telephones with thousands of new telephone applications on file at the Southwestern Bell Telephone Company.
Hello, sweetheart. Do you have a date to buy Sweetheart soap today? Time 8:24. Hello, friend. Bank with the Friendly National Bank of Commerce. Time 8:28.
The operator can give the correct time to as many as 40 people at once.
Southern Select is happy to give you the time, 8:32.
Yes, as many as 40 telephone lines from all over Houston terminate into one microphone. The operator talks 6 times a minute.
Don't forget to remember, Fairmaid is good bread. Time, 6:30.
So you see, by time service, babies are fed on time. Children are sent to school on time. People go to work on time. Go to church on time. Ships are launched on time. And thousands of other uses. Even football scores are broadcast with the time. So when you want the correct time,
place been in your family a long time, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, Ray. Andrew Johnson came to Blanco County down the road here about 10 miles. The early 1850s. My grandfather came up here the late 1850s, just before the Civil War.
And it's been Johnson territory ever since?
Well, they named the little town Johnson City after my grandfather and his cousin. And it was the headquarters of their ranch where they assembled their cattle from San Antonio and San Marcos and Fredericksburg and Llano, and then they drove them up the trail to Abilene, Kansas.
You were born right near here yourself?
About a half a mile down the road. Someone said the other day that I'd really come up in the world. I'd gone up the road 300 yards.
When you first left Johnson City the first time, it was as a school teacher, wasn't it?
Well, I left Johnson City to go to Southwest Texas State Teachers College, San Marcos. I hitchhiked down there and got a job picking rocks on the campus and worked my way through college. When I left San Marcos, I taught for a couple of years and then went to Houston in the public speaking department at Sam Houston High School. From there, I went to Washington as a congressman's secretary.
What do we have here? It's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible to run a car with no money and no gas.
In June '71, I became president of Wiley College. I was sent by the Bishop Copeland to close up Wiley College because we had an outstanding indebtedness of $1,100,000.
We're going to miss you. Next week is going to be a very lonely place.
Said, Bob, that's what they called me, go and give Wiley a decent funeral.
What are you going to do this summer?
I was told when my father died when I was 11 years old that you can make it if you really want to make it. You're lost when you give up. So I came in and I said, now, what Wiley has done for me, I've got to do for others. And somebody's going to help me. So I got on the road.
Oh, you sold? I don't believe you sold. Oh, that's it. That's it. She knows it.
Really?
You want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a few of you along with the choir. We'll be in the theater. Jerry, you can't say hello to the president?
You do.
How you be classified next year?
Junior.
Junior? Juniors don't speak to presidents, huh? Junior. I met one, a senior, the other day, and she said, Mr. President, I needed you when I was a freshman, but I'm a senior now.
About a dozen sailors started unloading the aircraft. First thing off was the white Christmas tree, which excited a smile wherever it was seen. Then, as the boxes filled with gifts were removed, Admiral O'Donnell extended a formal note of thanks for the Texas generosity.
All of us here at Guantanamo are extremely grateful to the people of Houston for their very great kindness in this matter. It's an extremely thoughtful thing, and it just adds a good deal to the joy of this occasion. Christmas here at Guantanamo this year is a particularly joyous one because our families are back in many cases, most cases, so that this is going to be a good one, and Houston has certainly made a significant contribution. Thank you very much.
Now at their destination, the gifts for Gitmo were trucked to the base auditorium, where a packed house awaited their arrival.
There were 18 men from the KPRC technical staff that traveled to Hawaii to board the Navy carrier Iwo Jima.
Fortunately for us, our man Steve Corbett took along a camera to record some of the things behind the scenes you never saw in the coverage of the flight of Apollo 13. After spending a few glorious days in Hawaii, the men on board the Iwo Jima were bound for the splashdown area. There was a lot to do, including setting up the live TV cameras that gave us such good pictures of the spaceship recovery. This is cameraman Bob Cheney. There are many others from KPRC you'll see. Our favorite sunbather, Frankie Hicks, plus Robert Johnson, Wayne Pollock, Bill Evans, Jim Goosetree, John Hebert. These and many more put in a lot of hard work, though there was some time to relax. They did not, however, spend too much time exercising with those tough members of the Navy's underwater demolition team. Our boys said they'd rather spend their free time reading or sunbathing or thinking about their wives. They spent quite a few days at sea without seeing a pretty girl, and they say that weighed heavily on their minds at times. But they managed to keep busy, setting up the cameras and doing all the little things that were necessary to make sure the job they were there for was done right.
KPRC maintains its own film processing laboratory, and in this one area, nearly 140,000 feet of film are processed each month. It would take a person nearly 700 hours to sit down and view all of the film we process each year. In a nearby area, commercial films are created in the film production department. Included in this area is all of the hardware needed to produce commercials and film programs of top quality. And in the rear is an elaborate screening and conference room for advertising clients to view the finished product. The commercials and other motion picture features seen on Channel 2 are played on film projectors located in the projection room. The area is also equipped to project slides and is designed in such a way that more projectors may be added as the operation expands in the future. Aside from film, another picture source in television programs is videotape. Videotape Central is located adjacent to the film projection room. The area houses 8 videotape recorders of 3 different types. The machines are used to record and play back news stories as well as commercials. There is an arrangement of sliding panels around the 6 larger machines, which allows people operating the recorders to work in pockets of isolation, thus reducing the overall noise level in the area. The pictures from Videotape Central, film production, and all other sources are fed to Television Master Control. Master Control is the final engineering checkpoint for all telecasts leaving the broadcast center. The monitors are used to check picture quality, and the green screens are oscilloscopes used to check the picture electrically.
Coming in, Mike. Cue.
Of course, the primary function of Channel 2 is to get television programs on the air, and our local productions originate from studios like this one. There are at least 20 monitors in each control room, and the video director has 1 monitor for every picture source, including all film projectors, videotape, and live cameras.
A lot of people think the Houston Post is just what the doctor ordered, because they found their job the same day in Morning Post want ads. Post want ads do a good job of matching people with employers. Post want ads is one of the largest classified sections in the world, with 750,000 readers daily. When you're in the market for good people, reach them the same day in the Morning Post. We get there first each morning, all week long. For results, just dial the letters want ads.
This is Houston, home of nearly 1.5 million people and 1 million different stories. Stories of people living the good life in parks, great theaters, sports arenas, and the untold amusements of Houston. Stories of success in oil, banking, shipping, and the growing multitude of medium industries. Stories of achievement in medicine, exploration of space, and in sports. It's a story of Houston, champion city of the great Southwest, and we are part of it. For Channel 11 is Houston, the sight and sound of Houston making news.
There are 20 of us who work in or out of this office. Ted Groves is my number 2, the guy whose job it is to keep up with everything that's happening everywhere and assign the people to cover what we consider the important happenings. Ted doubles as weekend sportscaster when Harry Callis is on the road with the Astros or the Cougars, but his prime function is that of coordinating the best news operation in Houston, and he does it well. At the other end of the room, Pete Maroney works. An amazing young man, produces Ron Stone's 5 p.m. portion of the evening news, researches editorials, does newscasts on the morning show. The Morning Show, 5 hours a week, head-to-head against Today. Pete covers the news. Al Bell and Joy Newfer provide guests, features, and entertainment that says, "This is Houston" to Houstonians. If there's a star in town, a social or civic function, an incident of interest in this city, Al and Joy tell you about it and bring you the people involved, consistently. The word applies as well to the news at noon. Consistent. In a different format, Al is here again, this time with Joanne King, Channel 11's women's editor. Al does the news. Joanne talks fashions, people, women, with equal authority. Proof? Well, 90,000 homes, 60% of the audience, consistently. You want more proof? She's in Europe tonight, witnessing previews of this year's fashions, just part of her job. My work keeps me in close contact with all these people, none possibly so much as with Ron Stone. Now, what can I say about Ron? A good newsman, a good writer, a funny person with unmatched insight. Yes, a delightful human being, too, and you already know that. Ron anchors our weeknight 10 o'clock report and begins our early coverage with the 5 o'clock segment of the evening news. Just an hour later, with 2 equally delightful people, I go into the studio for the 6 o'clock evening news. Ed Edwards and Sid Lasher look like they're having a good time doing what they do. They are, and so am I. You know, we discovered long ago that hard, serious news doesn't have to be laughed at, but it doesn't have to be related as if at a funeral either. We present the news the way we know best, and that's by being ourselves. There are 1,333 delegates to this Republican convention in Miami Beach, but those delegates are far outnumbered by the newsmen, photographers, and reporters assigned to cover the activities here. If you ignore for the moment the hundreds of newspaper, wire service, and magazine reporters and photographers, the delegates are still probably outnumbered at least 3 to 1 by the television newsmen alone. One network boasts of having 837 people here. Another talks of having more than 800. And still the third talks of having more than 500 people assigned to Miami Beach. But there are at least this many, and perhaps even more, reporters and photographers from local television stations around the country. Promotion people from all of these stations and from all the networks need only for someone to push their button for them to start spouting facts and figures. They talk of 102 color cameras here. They talk about 97 miles of cable and wire there, new cameras, portable cameras, all sorts of allied equipment, millions of dollars being spent, and on and on and on. There are television cameras and remote television crews stretched for miles up and down Miami Beach. They're outside Convention Hall, they're on street corners, and they're on rooftops. It has been true before, but never as true as today, that those who remained at home and watched this event on television will see more and perhaps understand it better than most, if not all, of the people in the Miami Beach Convention Hall. The tremendous increase in personnel and equipment and the strong new interest by so many more local television news operations from every corner of the United States may be, as some here believe, simply a sign of the time. It reflects an increasing concern felt here and around the world at the position of the United States in world affairs today. And on the other hand, it may be, as someone here suggested today, that the attraction is at least, in part, Miami Beach. If this is so, we should know it later this month, when the Democrats meet in late August of all times, in Chicago of all places. This is Dick John in the press room for the Texas delegation in Miami Beach.
I don't know how close you've ever been to an elephant, but the closer you get, the more you think this is an awfully big thing, and it must take an awful lot of power to run it. For instance, the human heart weighs about 1 pound. This heart belonging in this beast weighs about 50 pounds. And there are a lot of other interesting things about it that people would like to know. And it was for that reason that some people from Baylor College of Medicine came down here today to study the elephant's heart, doing what they called an electrocardiograph test. The test was the idea of Mrs. Felice Cohen. Is this your first try at testing elephants?
Yes, it is.
What made you think of taking an electrocardiogram for an elephant?
Well, it's got a very big heart. We might learn something from it because of the size.
Have you found any peculiar problems yet with working with elephants?
No, the trainers are very good at keeping them in place for us.
You've never worked with them before, though?
No, nothing like it. Never go near them.
Another person we talked to was Dr. Hebel Hoff, chairman of the Department of Physiology. We asked him what might be the merits of such a test.
The work is interesting in itself because we like to know what the heart of other animals is like and how it behaves, because we may learn things about our own hearts from this kind of exercise, but also it is a good exercise in how to organize studies and get them done.
Who designed the equipment to take the elephant's electrocardiograph?
This equipment is the equipment that we use in our teaching class at the medical school, and the equipment was designed and in the first instance built by Dr. Geddes, who is in our department. Dr. Geddes, you will see at the present time at the controls of the instrument.
Dr. Geddes, did you have any trouble adapting this equipment for use on elephant?
No, none at all.
What's the main difference, just the size?
The size makes it a little more difficult to get good records, but the principal difficulty is the thickness of the animal's hide. One has to use large electrodes and lots of salt water to make contact with the animal's body. Then the other difficulty, of course, relates to the animal's peculiar stance. He rocks back and forward like this, which makes it harder to get a clean record.
Of course, from out here, you can't see the heart. The really impressive thing are the big hoofs and that trunk and the way this elephant leans. This is Nick French, Channel 11 News at the circus.
That was a good one.
Most of us spend our lifetimes trying to stay out of a hole and thinking as little as we can about the grave. But here are two young ladies who are digging their own graves and making preparations to get in it. Why are you doing this, may I ask?
Well, for the challenge.
What's the challenge of being buried? I mean, we're going to get enough of that when the time comes, aren't we?
Well, it's different.
It is different, that I got to admit. How long are you going to try to stay down here?
65 days.
How deep will you be?
6 feet.
What's it going to be like down in this grave now?
Well, it's not going to be too good, but it won't be too bad either.
Well, what will you have? Radio, telephone, air conditioning, what?
Well, we'll have telephones and air conditioning, and it'll be fairly comfortable if you like laying down all the time.
I suppose. How do you get ready for something like this, psychological? Lock yourself in a closet or something?
Well, if you feel like you might have claustrophobia, yes. But I know I don't have it.
Why is everyone so interested in this free booklet from the Light Company? Because it's packed full of ways to help you save energy and money. Ideas, tips, simple do-it-yourself projects, important things you may not know about saving energy and cutting the cost of electricity around your home. Once you've picked it up, you may find it hard to put down.
I never noticed there are so many ways to save energy here in the kitchen.
Almost all the help you need to make your home an energy saver is right in this booklet.
Saving you energy, that's the way that it should be.
For your free copy of this new energy-saving tips booklet by Houston Lighting and Power, the Light Company.
And now, between the halves, a camera trip to the Rice Institute campus and the beautiful Fondren Library, dedicated just 3 years ago. Known for its cultural and scientific facilities, it's used not only by students and those engaged in research on the campus, but by many scientists and engineers from Houston's many industrial laboratories. The library has a growing collection of nearly 250,000 volumes and carries subscriptions to more than 2,000 current publications. Noteworthy is the large microfilm collection of old English books, the Draper manuscripts of Southern history and early newspapers. Private rooms with film readers are provided for those using the film. The Fine Arts Room on the second floor brings students and books together in comfort and beauty. You'll be inspired by the sight of so many earnest people making use of its facilities when you visit the Fondren Library at the Rice Institute. And now, back to football.
The news comes alive on 2. Big 2 News.
Good evening, I'm Larry Rasco, and this is what's happening in 2 Country. Most of Houston is hoping the city will be quiet tonight and that there will be no repetition of last night's violence in Moody Park. 18 people were hurt, 22 arrested after a confrontation between police and Mexican Americans.
Lon, when did you first find out the stores were in trouble here in your shopping center?
When my partner, Mr. Mendenhall, called me after he had received the alarm, which was about 11:15.
Now, the alarm for the fire, the alarm for...
No, the alarm for the burglar alarm. The store had been broken into, which he received about 10:30.
When you got to the store, were the people inside?
At the time I got here, they had already left. There was nobody in the store when I got here.
Well, some of your people got here, there were
yes,
people inside.
there were still people in the store when they got here.
They caused any trouble, or...?
Well, there's a lot of damage to the front of the store and merchandise and stealing beer and etc.
What about the fires? Did you turn them to come back and burn the whole place down? I say they, whoever they are.
We have received 2 telephone calls that when the police leave that they're going to come back and burn the Fiesta Mark down. We've asked the police to try to give us protection for the rest of the night. At this time, I don't know whether they'll be able to or not.
We want bomb! We want bomb! Stop police brutality! Stop police brutality! Freedom, freedom, Lord, I lay down tonight. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Oh yes, we're gonna walk the walk, we're gonna talk the talk. Mind on freedom, walk that walk, we're gonna talk that talk. Mind on freedom. I said down without the tone leadership. I said down without the tone leadership. I said down without the tone leadership. I said we're going to take a stand today. We're going to demand that they tell us why they fired this man. They're going to tell us why they fired him. They're going to tell us why that our application to become a campus organization was rejected. We want them to tell us that today. We also want to tell us why the other girls have to go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. These are some of the things. That's a lot of grievances. That's a lot of grievances. We must bring this campus to a 1967 campus and not a 1863 campus.
This conference is one more effort on the part of women for total recognition and total inclusion. The success or failure of this conference is our responsibility.
Endorsement of the Equal Rights Amendment resolution was a primary goal of the National Women's Conference, and with the overwhelming vote came dancing and cheering in the aisles. So, by an overwhelming vote, the National Women's Conference recommends to the President and the Congress of the United States full ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Sharon Spear, Big 2 News at the National Women's Conference.
We're going to take you back live to near Waco right now. The cult compound there about 1 hour ago went up in flames and burned to the ground. 112 people inside, 17 of them children. We have a report here now that 6 survived that fire. 1 of them burned badly.
That's bad news because that leaves 106 people unaccounted for.
Ken, we're going to ask you to stand by there just for a moment. We're going to take you live now to Irv White, who is at David Koresh's grandmother's house. Irv?
Yeah, Bob, you know, Jean Halep just a few moments ago asked us to come outside as she wanted to spend some time getting some rest, something she has not had a chance to do. You know, all along she's been very, very adamant about the fact that had she been allowed to go in to see her grandson in Waco, David Koresh, that she felt like she could have brought about a peaceful end to all of this.
I think they call it a tower.
These were not pleasant pictures for Jean Halep to watch. The Branch Davidian compound near Waco burning to the ground before her very eyes. And hopes of her grandson, David Koresh, surviving were not high.
Oh, I don't feel better about it. I'd feel better if I could go in and gut him out without any of this mess.
Mama.
Who's this?
It's Wayne.
Yes, this is Mama, baby.
Mama?
Huh?
I killed Dean.
Wayne?
Ma'am?
Oh, you didn't?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, God. Where are you?
It's all right.
Wayne?
It's all right. It's all right.
Where are you?
I'm out of his warehouse.
Where?
Out of that warehouse he keeps.
Can I come out there?
Yeah, yes. No.
It's on Highland Park.
She can't. No, you can't come. I'm with the police, Mama.
Henley told police he killed 33-year-old Dean Allen Corll during a party at Corll's house. Henley said Corll had threatened him with a pistol and a knife, trying to force him into sexual acts. Henley said Corll bragged about the other murders. Henley said he took no part in the killings of the young people whose bodies were found buried in plastic bags. Henley said at least 3 of the dead teenagers were friends of his. Police said the parents of 2 of the victims had received calls from them asking for money shortly before they disappeared. 1 had been missing for 2 years. A Houston homicide detective says the torture murders were the work of a maniac.
One of the largest companies in the nation, a world leader in energy and marketing of other commodities, looks for a way out of its tailspin. Of Enron's 20,000 employees worldwide, 7,500 are based in Houston, who have seen their company's stock drop almost 80% in the last 3 weeks.
Are you worried about what's going on?
No, not at all. Whatever happens, I think the market's good enough for us to still be employed.
Especially if there's a potential bailout / merger with Enron's energy neighbor, Dynegy. Talks between the 2 companies are ongoing.
Enron stock has dropped dramatically because of concerns about their survival and their liquidity. The feeling is if they're bought by a company, it's better if it's a Houston-based company because then many of the jobs that are preserved will stay here in Houston.
We'll have more stories with the other news of the day. Bill Worrell talks about the sports. Doug Johnson has the weather. Coming up next.
Channel 2 and Chevron invite your family to a holiday in the park at Astro World. For only $6.95, you'll see Bugs Bunny all dressed up and ready for Christmas. Sled on real snow, walk through a winter wonderland, and try your skill at ice skating. The family tradition continues at Astro World.
Some Christmas presents are harder to wrap than others. So this year, your Conoco dealer is going to be Santa's helper. He'll give you a big sheet of beautiful gift wrap paper free every time you fill up with Conoco gasoline. There are 8 exciting holiday designs in all, and each is exclusive at Conoco. Drive in today and get our free present for all your Christmas presents. And get more ride for your money at Conoco.
I wish we had a lot of time to devote to those satellite pictures and that Doppler radar.
Well, let's take more time to do that.
We will.
Up in the northwest, some cloud cover. In the southwest, skies are mostly clear to partly cloudy, and temperatures are at, or in some cases, slightly below normal. Undoubtedly, the largest area of rain is occurring from the Ohio River Valley into the northeast and then all along the Atlantic coast states into portions of the southeast and the Gulf Coast states. Rain continues tonight, and in some cases, that rain is quite heavy. Seems to be getting a little bit better around Louisiana and portions of Mississippi, but continues to fall from Alabama, Georgia, down into the northern sections of Florida, and this will be the rule through much of tonight as some of those severe thunderstorms continue to take place. The 5-state map shows better the situation as we have it off to the east of us. The frontal system right now is easing through the Houston-Galveston area, moving towards the southeast very slowly. It is not a real strong front. However, I guess you have to say it's fairly strong to even make it through this time of the year, but we'll not notice any great temperature changes as far as the afternoons are concerned. However, humidity levels will begin to drop fairly fast. Skies are already mostly clear through New Mexico, most of Texas, Oklahoma, portions of Arkansas, and it should be clearing out very nicely for most of the state of Texas and most of Louisiana by tomorrow afternoon. Along the coastline right now, it's 86 at Brownsville, 86 at Corpus Christi, both stations reporting cloudy skies, partly cloudy and 89 in Victoria, mostly cloudy and 76 right now in Galveston.
I'm standing in the shelter of the U.S. Weather Bureau station at the Victoria County Airport in Victoria. This is Hurricane Carla and all its strength after several days of waiting in the Gulf of Mexico. Late today, it moved inland some 35 miles southeast of here, and now in Victoria, we're feeling the full force of Hurricane Carla, said to be one of the worst ever to strike the Texas Gulf Coast. We don't know exactly how fast those winds are traveling behind me, because about an hour ago, the anemometer that measures the velocity of the winds here for the weather station blew off with a part of the roof of the weather station here at Victoria. We don't know how fast they are just before the anemometer blew off the roof, leaving a large hole, incidentally. The velocity of the winds was about 100 miles per hour. It seems to be considerably worse now. The winds were 150 miles an hour at Fort Lavaca, 27 miles southeast of here, and the eye of the hurricane is reported there moving toward Victoria. Fort Lavaca reports it was in the eye of this large hurricane for 1 hour, calm for an hour at Fort Lavaca as the eye passed over. We have no reports of damage yet in Victoria, or for that matter in any of the low-lying coastal areas, but as we stand here, we've watched the radar tower come down at the Victoria Airport. We've watched the roof come off of nearby buildings. We have no reports of what happened at Fort Lavaca or Fort O'Connor, where the storm came in to the Gulf Coast, but we can only assume that they had higher winds, that they had more damage than Victoria will have. The difference is that those low-lying areas had been evacuated by order before the hurricane hit this afternoon. Victoria was not. Some 35,000 people live here, plus 4,000 evacuees who came up from the low-lying coastal areas. All of those are behind boarded windows trying to weather the storm. This is Ken Fairchild, KPRC-TV News, reporting from the Victoria Weather Station, Victoria, Texas.
3 funnel clouds combined to form one huge tornado that blasted its way across the southern portion of Wichita Falls. Some people said the funnel was 1/4 of a mile across. There was warning. Many people heard the TV and radio alerts, and emergency sirens were sounded. But no one was really ready for the storm that hit Wichita Falls. Hundreds of casualties were dumped on hospitals already jammed with the injured from a tornado that happened about 2 hours earlier in Vernon, 50 miles west of Wichita Falls. Emergency shelters were set up for the thousands left homeless, but the shelters were mostly empty because the victims chose to stay to protect their belongings or spend the night with friends and relatives. There was no electricity, no water, and no gas, so portable generators had to be brought in to provide lighting. Dawn came, and the police began to allow residents back into the damaged areas. Authorities still are not sure how many victims the storm will eventually claim. They've searched all day for more victims, under tons of rubble in a plush shopping mall, and in the hundreds of cars that were demolished by the wind. They didn't find anyone in this car, but they kept looking. The people who survived made their own searches for anything they could salvage from houses, apartments, and mobile homes. And they talked about what it was like to survive the storm.
You could just hear just real loud noise. It's like a sledgehammer hitting up against something. I've never been in one in my life, and I don't want to ever be in another one.
Time for the sports. Craig Roberts is here. The Astros didn't even take the field, but there's bad news for them anyway.
Well, not really bad news because things are still plenty tight, and that's what really makes it fun.
If business appointments were mysteriously canceled today, or if healthy-looking employees caught a mysterious one-day illness, or if people around just seemed to bug out, then this probably is the reason. It's Major League Baseball time again. What better way to treat a severe case of spring fever than to watch a baseball game on a sunny day? And as the old saying goes, this was a perfect day for baseball. The first of thousands of fans started coming into the ballpark at 10 o'clock this morning. They are the vanguard of what the Colt management hopes will be a million-plus attendance this year. Coming into the stadium today, they discovered more entrances and exits in the parking lot, so the traffic moves faster. 3 new streets are also open into the stadium area, including principally Kirby Drive.
Final game of the regular season for the Astrodome, the 8th wonder of the world.
The numbers are astronomical. A capacity crowd turns out to say goodbye to the Astrodome, but the Astros aren't ready to leave just yet. At home, they bring it home, taking the Astrodome with them into the playoffs.
It's hard to leave home.
88-year-old James Tarver has been here since day one.
35 years I've been sitting in this seat. I missed 2 games.
A steel, plastic, and concrete reality. Houston's world-famous new landmark, the Astrodome.
The Astrodome has come full circle. 35 years ago, it was hailed as one of the greatest achievements of humankind, a brand new stadium. But now, we're rounding the bases for the last time. I don't want to leave the dome. Miriam Smith bought season tickets 35 years ago and never gave them up. She believes the grass is always greener when it's AstroTurf.
I hope the mosquitoes bet the people that voted to go downtown.
I truly do love the game, and I'm very happy to have been put in the position to where I've been sort of an ambassador, a PR man, or a clown, or a funny man, or a battle of the sexes, or a male chauvinist pig, or whatever you want to call it. The final outcome is what counts, and the final outcome is that tennis has been the big beneficiary of it all over the world. Tennis, eyes of the world are focused on the ladies more than they ever have, and even the men's tennis hasn't suffered anything by it. And I think it is true that some of the very fine touring pros sort of would consider this Mickey Mouse tennis, what have you, because they know, as I know, and as Billie Jean knows, that there's no way a woman can play tennis with a good man tennis player. But what makes this match a credible match, and what makes it the attraction that it is, and why the eyes of the world are on it, is that this isn't just a tennis match. This is a battle of the sexes, and the gladiator for the men happened to be me. I happen to be cast into that role, a 55-year-old guy with 1 foot in the grave that hasn't played tournament tennis for 15 or 17 years.
Moments after the season ends, the celebration begins.
We did it for Kim! We did it for New York is crying! We won!
It's the call of a championship for Comet fans, back to back to back.
There's a lot of energy going on here, and it's wonderful to do it 3 times in a row.
Inside Game 3, a sea of red, Comet fans all united in the spirit of Kim Perucca.
Her energy today is going to be critical for us, and you know that first 3-point shot by Cynthia Cooper is going to be for Kim, so it's just a matter of time.
Midway through the first half, it came. Cooper raises a 10, and the crowd raises the roof. There will be no last-minute buzzer beaters on this day.
No more last-second shots. That will not happen today.
You have your rings over there, the 2.
And I have room for a couple more on here, and one day I hope to walk around like this to the game.
Comet fans claim a 3-peat, and now they also start talking dynasty.
This is just really special because of Kim Perucca. You know, it's just very special to all of
Houston, I think. So, number 1, baby. Number 3 or number 10.
You had the games. I've got the halftime entertainment. Coming up, 32 local drill teams kicking their heels for MD. Stay with us.
Want to get the jump on sports? Get the Houston Chronicle. The Chronicle is a jump ahead of the others, with a complete comprehensive preview of every new season, with the most extensive pre-game features, interviews, and reports, with the most complete reporting of the day-to-day sports scene, with the country's leading sports columnists and analysts. If you follow sports, get the Houston Chronicle, and get the jump on tomorrow.
There's a new look to the news on Channel 2, weeknights at 6. Anna Bond, Emmy Award-winning journalist, anchors direct from the new Channel 2 newsroom. George Caldwell and Joel Smith head up Houston's only full-time news bureaus, downtown and in Austin, with live reports each night. Doug Johnson focuses on the weather from Channel 2's new Forecast Center. And Dana Milliken brings you her Unit 2 special reports. Channel 2 is changing the way you look at the news.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the premiere episode of Season 2 of Give Me the Mic. I'm your host, Chris Raggi. You guys are all holding hands, praying for one another. You were dynamite tonight. We're going to have a winner in just a second. I just want to let you know, though, before we do announce a winner tonight for our premiere episode, whoever does not win, you do have a chance to come back as a wild card. So there is still a chance if you don't win tonight, you can come back and join us in the finals. We want to thank our judges who had a tremendous time tonight. Great talent on this stage. Great, great talent. The recording contract, the car, it's all on the line. April 13th, the live final. It begins right now. Let's go to our judges.
Thank you, judges. If you've never heard of Gilley's, you're possibly not from Houston, probably not a country and western fan, and certainly not an urban cowboy. For Gilley's Bar is now an institution to Houston, what Tootsie's Orchid Lounge is to Nashville. It's been here for the past 9 years, but only hardcore C&W fans knew about it. That was before John Travolta and a movie that was as much about this honky-tonk as the people who hung out there. It's not making a lot of money for Paramount, but...
It looks like a 2-hour commercial for Gilley's. I'm very happy that back in 1971, my business partner Sherwood Cryer decided to call it Gilley's instead of one of the names I had picked out for it.
Which was?
It was the Sin Den.
What has Urban Cowboy done for Gilley's?
Well, it's turned Gilley's almost into a national shrine, you might say. And yes, it has. It's improved the take quite a bit, not only in product that we sell, Gilley's T-shirts. I made a statement the other day that all these years that we've been advertising Gilley's, now people are coming in and advertising for us by just wearing our T-shirts. I was in Dallas. I saw people wearing, I rode the bull at Gilley's Club, Pasadena, Texas. Way out in California, you see them, walking down the street with a Gilley's Club T-shirt on. And it made me feel darn good to say, hey, after all these years of struggling, which has been around 20 years, to see these things beginning to happen for Mickey Gilley.
They asked me, they said, how is it that you're able to maintain the blonde sex pot image and still, only lack 6 months toward having your degree? I said, well, I try my very best to keep it covered up. My education.
I have just one personal question. Very striking thing that I'm sure everyone noticed as soon as you stepped off the plane was your hairdo. Is this an unusual hairdo, or are you making preparations for tonight really underneath?
No, it's not any more unusual. It's an Italian slip. I change my hairdos quite often.
One of the things that will make this particularly attractive is that even the ice cream that's served here, you'll be able to eat it under air-conditioned umbrellas.
A year ago today, an age-old dream was realized. 2 astronauts brought the spacecraft Eagle to a landing on the moon, man's first landing on another world. The crew of that spacecraft received worldwide acclaim. Today, we ask Houstonians if they remember the names of those first 2 astronauts on the moon.
The first 2, John Glenn, right? Who? John Glenn, right? Was the first man there.
Who do you think were the first 2 men to land on the moon a year ago today? Neil Armstrong. What?
Yeah.
Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, that's right.
Who was the other astronaut?
I don't think I was awake that day.
Who were the first two astronauts to land on the moon?
Alan Shepard, wasn't it?
No, John Armstrong.
John Armstrong.
John
yeah.
Armstrong.
And who was the other astronaut?
And
Bean, wasn't it?
Bean and Armstrong. No, Bean was in the oh, Bill, you know that.
I know, but I can't think right
John
now.
Armstrong was the first one on the moon.
No, I don't. I think it's Alan.
No, Shepard was the first one in space.
Yeah, that's right.
Of course, it was astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin who first landed on the moon, and it was Mike Collins who stayed behind in the spacecraft Columbia circling the moon. Names that will be remembered down through the ages, even though a few folks have a little trouble remembering the names a year after the event. This is Lee Tucker, Channel 2 News, reporting from downtown Houston.
We're all counting down to the year 2000, and so is your computer. But there are ways to extinguish Y2K before it burns you and your home computer.
I expect 40–50% of the home users will have some type of failure.
Computer Renaissance near the Galleria is testing personal computers for free.
The program checks the computer to make sure that it's going to roll over from 1999 to the year 2000. This particular one isn't going to have failed.
Some turn over to the new millennium, others are stuck in 1900. The good news? PCs made in 1997 or later should be fine.
But every system running Windows 95 or 98 needs a software patch, and any computer made 5 or 6 years or older may not be able to be fixed.
To fully examine the problem, we have to go inside your computer and take a look around. This tiny chip could cause a huge problem. It's the BIOS chip, or Basic Input-Output System. The BIOS tells the computer and all its programs what time it is. But the older chips use only 2 digits to calculate the year. The 19 is hardwired. And even if your PC's hardware works, you may still need to download software patches for all the programs.
A lot of this information is available through the internet, but the internet lines may be so backed up, you may not actually be able to connect to these web sources or pages of information to secure the information you need.
You may have heard that they're cleaning up the San Jacinto Monument, and this intelligence may not have made any particular impression upon you, but to a photographer, the idea of steeplejacks climbing around on a towering stone shaft suggests all kinds of picture possibilities. And Houston Post photographer Bill Goodwin was acting today upon that suggestion. Goodwin scaled the monument with the cleaning crew. Cleaners went about their business with the sand-blasting hoses, which are what you have to use to clean a monument. Goodwin tried out all the lens and filter and angle combinations he could think of to capture the scene on film. We have this film record of Goodwin's activities because the idea of a newspaper photographer climbing a monument to make pictures of sandblasters at work suggested picture possibilities to our chief film reporter Bob Harper. The San Jacinto Monument is the world's tallest stone shaft, and most of the action you've just seen took place at an altitude of 570 feet without a net.
That's the Big 2 News at 6.